Brisbane now, the Assistant Minister to the Treasurer, Michael Sukkar, joins us live. Now, why do we find you in Brisbane this afternoon? You are usually more southern, in Melbourne, in the colder climate. Are you just up there trying to find some sunshine, Michael Sukkar?
Oh, g'day, Laura. No, I'm not just trying to escape Melbourne's cold winter. I've actually been out this morning with Ross Faster in Bonner, and later on today I'll be out with Trevor Evans in Brisbane, and we're holding forums here with pensioners and retirees who are going to be hardest hit by Labor's pensioners and retirees tax, where they will deny franking credit refunds to pensioners. And we're hearing stories, and they're very consistent with particularly those with self-managed super who will, in many cases, be losing up to 30% of their retirement income. And these are people on low to, at best, a medium retirement income.
Did you meet anyone that was going to lose 30% of their retirement income because of this policy?
Absolutely. I met a gentleman this morning who, former police officer, mandatory retirement at 60, and he's going to lose 30% on the dot because all of his retirement savings are in Australian shares that he receives franked dividends on. So a former police officer is going to lose 30% of his income under the proposal by Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen. I was in the central coast of New South Wales yesterday, Lucy Wicks in Robertson, hearing the same sorts of stories. So we're getting around the country. We're reassuring those pensioners and retirees that we're going to fight this rotten policy from the Labor Party. And it's been pitched, Laura, at the top end of town, but I can assure you the people we have attending our forums are by no means the top end of town. These are very much low and middle income retirees and pensioners.
Why didn't you do these forums before the Longman by-election? It could have helped you because there was some indication that older voters, retirees, pensioners, are not that thrilled with the coalition government at the moment.
Well, we've been conducting these sorts of forums around the country really since the announcement, and you obviously, as someone who watches this closely, saw the embarrassing backdown that the Labor Party undertook by carving out pensioners. But there are still something like 900,000 pensioners and retirees who will be affected. You know, we've been talking about it since then. It was occurring before those by-elections. It's continuing now, and I think it's something we'll keep talking about between now and the next election. The Labor Party don't want to talk about it, understandably, because they're ripping money off pensioners and retirees, but we're going to get around the country, and these 900,000 Australians are not going to go quietly.
Surely you're up there campaigning, but are you listening as well?
Absolutely, Laura. I mean,
what are they saying to you?
These sessions, well, they're saying that they don't want this pensioners and retirees tax. They've said that in many cases, they have spent years setting up their assets for retirement. They don't now want to have up to 30% of their income taken off them. They don't want to be forced to try to take those money out of blue chip Australian shares that they feel safe with, that they understand, that provide them a good return. They want to be left alone. They want to be able to have certainty in their retirement, and that's one thing we're telling them, that the next election, we are not tinkering or tampering with super. The Labor Party will, and the Labor Party also want to rip up to 30% of their income off them.
What are they saying to you about company tax cuts? Because we've heard the Treasurer and the Prime Minister both say that they'll listen to, they'll look at the result, they examine the result, particularly in Longman. Are they banging down your door saying you actually have to stick with this to the next election, or are they telling you to cut it loose?
Laura, the feedback is mixed, but it's been mixed on the issue of reducing taxes for business really since we announced the enterprise tax plan. There are some people who just instinctively understand that if you want to remain competitive when the United States has a tax rate of 21%, the UK has a tax rate of 18%, that we can't afford Australian companies to be competing with one arm tied behind their back. And us proposing a 25% tax rate by the end of our plan, they see as being sensible. There are others who are concerned at that as well. So it's a real mix, Laura. And these sorts of forums, quite frankly, me and the local member, we probably speak for 20% of the time.
Yep.
Most of the time, we're there listening or answering specific questions.
Okay, so what's your sense then? Should you have one more crack at this, see if you can get it through the Senate, or do you seek another mandate at the next election?
Laura, my view hasn't changed. My view is that in order to attract the investment we want in this country to fuel economic growth that will create the jobs, which therefore creates the opportunities for Australians,
Right, so will you
creates
take
the
it to the next
prosperity,
election?
that we absolutely have to. Well, I think, Laura, we should try and legislate it. I think it's very important for our country. As I've said, we're not aiming to be some sort of tax haven here. At the end of our enterprise tax plan, we'll still have a corporate tax rate higher than the United States, higher than the United Kingdom, higher than many other comparable countries.
That you, the Treasurer Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister the other night on the ABC, are all reluctant to say whether you will commit to it and take it to the next election.
Well, Laura, in my defence, I'm not the benevolent dictator of the Liberal Party, so I can't make any categorical statements. Other than, yeah, it is disappointing. I would actually quite enjoy that, maybe for a day, provided I didn't cause too much damage. But the reality is this is a policy we're very, very committed to. We're going to put it to the Senate. We've made all the arguments. I think we've made these arguments uphill and down dale. I think most people, most sensible commentators understand that you can't have Australian companies competing on a global stage with one arm tied behind their back, that to remain an attractive place for investment and economic growth and therefore jobs creation, this is something that's needed. And it's been very surprising in recent years that someone like Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen, who actually wrote a book about why having a competitive corporate tax rate was important, have really, for political reasons, ruthless political reasons, absolutely repudiated all those things that they said earlier. So, my sense is, Laura, this is important for our economy and we hope that the Senate does the right thing.
Okay, but you and I both know that that's not going to happen.
Well, we've had this discussion before, Laura, on a range of other things where...
But One Nation has been emboldened by that result out of Longman absolutely
Laura,
not.
Time will tell.
So you really think Pauline Hanson might change her mind again? I don't know what this would be, a triple backflip or something with the pike, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, look, you may be right. Don't get me wrong, Laura. I'm not being categorical. I'm just saying we don't know. Let's wait and see. You and I could sort of try and read the tea leaves for a while and probably come up with the same conclusion that we don't really know until it hits the floor of the parliament. But the reality is we've got to keep making the arguments as to why having lower taxes is important. That's why the centrepiece of this year's budget was lower personal income taxes. Lower personal income taxes for nearly all Australians. Centrepiece of our budget.
So when do you think you might be able to tell us whether you will take this 25% corporate tax rate to the next election or not?
Well, Laura, I'm sure that in time for the election, all will be known. Okay. But right now, we're committed to furthering the important economic agenda we've got. We know it's paying dividends. We saw for businesses with a turnover up to $50 million who received a tax cut last year that they fueled so much of the records job growth we had, 415,000 jobs in a year. So this is not sort of a theoretical argument. We've seen it on the ground. We see what having a competitive investment environment does. It creates jobs. It creates opportunities for kids leaving school. It creates opportunities for people who want to get a better job, get ahead, provide more for their family. It's sort of not a theoretical economic exercise. This really does have a real impact on people's lives.
All right, we'll speak to you again after we see what the Senate does. Michael Sukkot, before I let you go, Emma Hussar, should she be left alone?
Well, Laura, obviously there are 22 alleged victims, 22 accusers. They should take this to the Fair Work Australia. To Fair Work Australia, this should go through formal channels. I think we should ensure that those 22 individuals who are the alleged victims of Ms Hussar are looked after in every way possible. We also need to get to the bottom of what Bill Shorten knew and when. I mean, Bill Shorten says that he knew nothing about this before media called his office on the 18th of July, yet we've had since then Anthony Albanese say he's known for months, Tony Burke say he's known for months, and now we have one of the alleged victims of misuse saying no, that they've been in contact, the 22 alleged victims have been in contact with Bill Shorten's office for many, many months. Does he really believe that we're such mugs that we would believe a story that everyone in the Labor Party knew this except for Bill Shorten? And if he lied, if he stared down the barrel of a camera twice and lied about not knowing before the 18th of July, that'll be a very serious thing. And that's why I suspect there's some hesitance amongst some to elevate this further, because I think now it comes in the real question, in addition to the grievances of these alleged victims and looking after them, is what Bill Shorten knew and when, and does he really believe, or does he really think that we're going to believe he knew nothing when everyone else in the Labor Party knew for months? I don't think so.
Okay, Michael Sukkar, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you.